Hi everybody, I just wanted to show you a couple of techniques that I use with my palette knife, different ways that I can use a palette knife. I've selected a picture of some knives here that I paint now and again. I've done a big version of this, but I haven't done a small one. So it allows me to show you the different techniques I use with my palette knife. Now this is a palette knife that I use. You can see the size of it. It's got a lovely round end, it's not got any sharp edges. And what I try and do is I make, see that there, I try and make it slightly curved up if I can. I mean, it's very, very slight, but you don't want it to be absolutely flat and you don't want it to be pointing the other way. You want it to be pointing upwards slightly. So I use this palette knife for everything I do, even on my big paintings. What I've found with small paintings, it's fantastic because you've got a big palette knife. I mean, look at that palette knife compared to the canvas, and you get really, really loose techniques. And of course, when you try and go to a massive canvas to use the same palette knife, is really hard to get the same feel, and that's something I've struggled with. And then the only way you can sort of compensate for that really is by almost using like a trowel that a builder uses, but obviously you're going to use gallons of paint. So I just end up putting it on with this, but really sort of loosely and fluidly, and it gives the pictures a different feel completely. And the effect I really like is with small canvases. This is a 30 by 30. I've got a wooden panel and I stick a bit of muslin on it, and then I glue it with wood glue, and then I put 2 coats of gesso on it, so it's like a canvas. And then I paint on that, and it's lovely because the reason I like it is because A, it's a flat surface, and also when I get the frames made, I can have the frames made within like 1.5 mil of the edge of the canvas, whereas when you use proper canvases, sometimes they go out of shape and you have to allow about 8 mil around the edge to compensate for the sort of thing being out of line. Anyway, that's enough of that. These are I've mixed up my paint. Now what I tend to do is I put quite a lot of paint out on the thing because you're constantly picking up paint with the palette knife, so it looks like you're sort of being quite generous with the paint, but you know, if you're doing it every day, this is the way you need to be really, because you can't be thinking, oh, I've got to go easy on paint. Lemon yellow, cadmium orange, deep, rose madder, permanent mauve, raw sienna, what's that called? Cerulean blue, ultramarine, and Prussian blue, and I don't use black. And then I've got titanium white. And my titanium white is in a big bucket, and I get a couple of these, and they last me about 2 months. Well, not even that, probably 6 weeks. Yeah, six to 8 weeks. And that's me thing. And what I've done is I've mixed up with this picture. I'm going to start with a sort of a burnt orange background. The reason I do that is it's sort of a mid colour, and it will allow the lighter colours to come through and look really nice against it, you know, like the blues and stuff like that. And I'm just sort of putting a bit darker colour in it. So it's like I've used a bit of cadmium orange and a bit of raw sienna to get it to go muddy, and then a little bit of cerulean blue. So I've got this really muddy brown colour. So the first technique that I do is to cover the canvas in a colour, which gives you like a base to draw on. So what I tend to do, and then you sort of flatten it out a bit like a plasterer would do with a wall, or when you're brushing out. So you put your colour on, and I'm going to try and work as quickly as I can on this so that the video's not. So this looks a bit drab and moody at the minute, but that's what we want. So see the way I'm doing that's to get the paint to go right to the edge. So you're pushing outwards away from the canvas. So at this stage, don't worry about it being too flat, and then as long as you scraping, not hard, but I'm putting a bit of pressure on just to make sure that the paint gets into. Sometimes you get little marks. So flat colour. Right, so what I'm going to do now is just to sort of clean up. So what I tend to do, I'll go around the edges with my fingers just so that I haven't got, and you can do it with a knife, but the thing is the canvas ends up with tiny little frayed edges of cotton from the thing, and then if you do it with a palette knife, sometimes it slips off and then draws a line right across. You don't want that. Right, so what you do now is you drag your palette knife sort of on the edge across like that, and what it's doing is it's taking the paint off and smoothing it out. Imagine, and when you do it on a big canvas, obviously it takes ages. So crossways, then the other way, and down. And then as you're doing it more and more, the touch on the palette knife to the canvas gets lighter and lighter, so your touch is becoming a little bit softer each time, because then what you want, and you can see sort of some lines in it, but what you'll notice if you let it dry, if you want it to dry flat and not put much detail in it, it does dry off, and then you don't see the marks so much. Notice that I'm wiping the excess off each time, and I do that all the time in painting. So every time I make a mark, I wipe the excess off with, otherwise it gets dirty. And it's just second nature to me now, so. I'm really a light touch now, just stroking it as lightly as I can. And while you're doing it, you can see, if you do it one way or the other way, it depends what way the cotton is going, but you sort of, one way the lines show up and then another way they don't show so much. So whatever way looks the best is the way you finish. So this one is actually finishing better down. So I'll just do it one more time. Lightest touch. I'll finish. Right, I'm finishing now. So just I'm sort of half going over what I've done before and half over the new bit. See? It's quite nice. Right, so that's sort of technique number one, is getting a nice flat colour and just sort of make sure the edges are clean. Right, so that's that. Now, what I'll do is I'm going to mix up a sky. I think I'm going to do like a nice blue sky over this, and then we'll add some bits. So this would be a bit of blending. So although it's wet, it's really nice. As long as you don't, you have to accept that there's going to be a bit of mixing going on. So I'm going to get a bit of cerulean blue, get a light blue, and a bit of ultramarine. So I want quite a nice mid blue, and then you want the brown to show through in areas, and I've got no idea, what it's going to look like, but you just do it and then see what happens. I'm putting a little bit of rose madder, a tiny touch of rose madder, just to make it go a bit more purpley, and you just get this sort of purple tinge. And if you want, you could put a bit of raw sienna in it, and then what that does, it sort of kills the blue a little bit, and and doesn't make it so vibrant blue. I mean, if you want some vibrant, you can put it on. Yes, that's got a lovely mauve tinge to it, and I'll put just a little bit of. It looks when you put the raw sienna in, it looks like it's going to be a bit muddy, right? But when you actually put it on the canvas, it's a lovely. It gives it a lovely cloudy, like sort of misty effect, and the fact that it's got sienna in it a little bit, when you put a brighter colour on top of it, you've still got that sort of dullness where the bright colours will sing out, and that's what you're trying to achieve all the time, is this, put some dark colours down, moody colours, and then put some bright colours over it, and then the bright colours. So this is I don't know if you can see that on there, but look, if I hold it in front of the canvas, you can see that the two colours are going to look really nice. So I've got a sort of a horizon across there, but I don't want to go right down to the bottom. So I'm just going to put some colour on. Make sure I clean it off next time. This is technique number 2. This is where you're going to be blending. So in blending, so you put some colours down. Don't work it in yet too much. Something like that. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like you can see, that just looks a mess in a minute. But what we'll do now is we'll start blending it in. So we just sweep it in different ways and noticing where the brown, the sort of the ochre colour is showing through. You want it to show through a bit, you know. Just, and then you know, obviously you're taking a lot of paint, but you can put it back on. So try and keep your palette knife nice and clean, so that so you're blending, doing the same thing. Same thing as before. Just don't overwork it. And you'll see that you'll get. That's it. So it looks a bit. Sometimes you get a bit of dirt in it. I've got a bit of dirt there. That's it. So notice that I'm doing different angles to make it. What you'll find is if you go too fast, you get like these bounce marks across it. So you have to go quite. Go the other way. Yeah, that's looking great. See, what happens is you start to get these patterns in the paint, and then that gives you ideas, and you think, oh yeah, I can see. I've got some really strong blue coming through there, and I quite like that. And I think, right, what I'm going to do is, like, now I've got that blended. See the way that was blended? So you put it down roughly, and then smooth it in. So next time, I'm going to put a bit more blue on, and I won't smooth it so much. So I can, so you know, just knock in some loose areas like that. And this time, just make sure your palette knife is absolutely clean. And then what we'll do is we'll just not touch them so much. I've got a bit of dirt. Oh, it's irritating when that happens. See? And then you build up the intensity of the blue. Just change it directions. And you might say, okay, I like that. That's looking pretty good. New idea. And then what we'll do now, we'll mix up a little bit of lilac or something. What I'm going to do is, as get to the bottom of the horizon, the colours are going to get lighter. And I'm sort of thinking I'd quite like a pink down there. So I think what I might do is mix up a bit of pink. And so I'm using the rose madder to get the pink. And then if you stick a bit of the orange, cadmium orange in it, it just makes the pink go a bit salmon, which is a lovely colour. Sometimes you can go too far. Just make sure you don't get any dirt. Right, so I've got a lovely colour here. Right. So, can you see how loosely I'm putting that down? And then you might just put some along the clouds. So, you know, I'm imagining there's little clouds here. Right, I just want a line down there, give me something to blend. So, that's it. So you put your colours in loosely. Now wipe your palette knife clean. Now this time, we don't want to blend it hardly at all. So just the lightest touch. I'm going up and across, both ways. You can do it sort of curly. See, you've got that lovely, really gentle. I've got a little mark in there. And put a bit of strong blue back in there. I quite like the strong blue. You might just put a couple of lines through there. That's looking pretty decent. Clean up the edges. Well, that's quite nice. And then what I'll do is get these little spots of dirt. Oh God. Oh, see? That's not bad. It's quite nice when you get some little. Now I'll mix up. I'm going to chuck this away. Bit of lemon yellow and white. So we'll just drag some. I'm really touching this lightly now. This is another technique. So what you're doing is you're getting a little bit of paint on the palette knife. And you've got to be really good. Just whatever angle you like, and just drag it across and change the angle of the palette knife. And just drag it gently across. Clean up and a little flick of the palette knife. Until you're happy with what you've got. There you go. See, I've got a couple of bounces there. There you go. So that's looking pretty decent. And I've still got some of the raw sienna showing through in the bottom. And if you really, you can go on forever, but a bit of mauve. I've got a little bit of mauve here. Permanent violet. So I'll put a bit of rose madder in as well. The thing is not to, don't go mad now. So I'm looking at this picture, I'm thinking, mate, could I, so if I stick a bit of, just wiggle the palette knife a little bit. Can you see? Nice touch. There you go, that's lovely. So you just smearing paint, really. Oh, another bit of dirt. it always looks scary. You put these rough bits on, but if you're just careful enough. That'll do. That's quite nice. All right. So that's the technique. Right, we'll do the same down now. Moving down to the water now. And you've got to say to yourself, what do you want? Now, if we do a really muddy turquoisey colour, so there's a bit of cerulean blue, and I've put a bit of raw sienna in there, and a bit of white. So you want it to be quite murky, but then what will happen is it will really sing a bit of ultramarine. Get it? Just go really dark. That's lovely. This is quite moody, so what we'll do, the horizon's about there. So go just below where you want the horizon to be, because it gives you time to work up to it. So start, this is another technique. So I'm using the edge of the palette knife, getting the horizon straight. So I'm slowly pushing it up as I get less and less paint. And I'm going, notice I'm going downwards. So what will happen is when I'm ready and I feel happy with the horizon, I'll go the other way. And then and sometimes I like the horizon to be murky, blended. So what I'll do is I'll run my finger like that, do it a couple of times, try and get it as straight as you can. Doesn't matter too much. And then you can pick up some of this paint and just so if you want, what you do is drag with the edge, using the top of the palette knife as the edge. I think you just get a feel for this in the end, and as you do it more and more, it'll get softer and softer. See? Now what we'll do now is I'm just going to use the palette knife, and you've got to be really confident, straight across in a straight line. If that's not quite how you want it, what you can do is just get a bit of white or lemon yellow, and just go back along the other way with the palette knife pointing downwards, and then do the same. So you get, and you just got to do it until you're happy with the horizon, and obviously you want a bit of reflection. So see how I'm using the edge of the palette knife. I mean, my hand's a bit wobbly, so I'm trying to do it quickly so that it doesn't get time to wobble. I want it to be, yeah, I don't want it to be too perfect. That's lovely. So it's just got this really soft horizon going on there. That's better. Yeah, so there's your sea. So, and what you can do, you just add a bit of colour back in there. Look, try not to. See? So we've still got these sort of murky colours going on, which is fabulous, because what that means is right now what what's going to happen is the water is going to have reflections of the sky in it. So I'm going to start with a sort of a mid lilac colour first, because I can see that in there. And again, you've got to, so it's a bit of blending. So what we'll do is we'll drag, it looks a bit scary, and change the angle with the waves. Yeah? See this way, these colours, and that's something I meant to say, is that you know, your painting can be really, really loose, but colour selection is the most important thing that you're going to be doing. So just whacking some, see the way that I've just put that in loosely. It doesn't matter, you can bring it down, just make sure it looks like it's got perspective. And then just blend it lightly, not too heavy, because you want to retain these loose marks. That's lovely. And if you feel, what I'm going to do, mix up a little bit of cerulean blue with a little bit of lemon yellow to get aqua. I'll put a little bit of raw sienna in there as well, because I don't want it to get too bright yet. And you see you've got these patches. You see you've got these patches of fairly solid colour. I've just got a bit of dirt in there. I just want to take that off. So again, drag the old aqua, just touch it gently. Lovely little waves in there. Cool. You know, think about, imagine you're stroking the edge of the waves. So you've got that. So I can see a little bit of orange in there, so I'm going to put a little bit of orange just here and there, just building up the colours, intensity. You know, you might start off with a little bit of, let it get, imagine you're stroking the tops of the waves. I mean, a lot of this is pretty covered up in a minute. See, look at that, that's gorgeous. There you go. Now, I don't want to ruin that, so I'm just going to drag my palette knife over as gently as I can. That's quite a few bits there I don't like. I say there's a bit there that's got a bit. So notice I'm just touching that. Right. Sort of the beach, there's a beach here, a bit of beach, and then there's this lovely, beautiful pinky lilac colour there. So what I'm going to do first of all is put in the pinky lilac colour. So, and this is where you use your imagination. Don't think, oh, what does the picture look like? Doesn't matter what the picture looks like, you're doing what you want to do. So I'm going to mix up this lovely, I mean, I haven't got a clue what colour I want yet, but I'm just going to mix it up. I think I'm going to go slightly mauve. There you go. Oh yeah. Put a bit of cerulean blue in that, and that will go lovely. Oh yeah. Now don't forget, that's going to be a lovely strong beachy colour, but this is a lovely. So I've got this really nice lilac. Now what I want to do is sort of drag it. You see the way that, drag, look at that. And so you can put your palette knife on. So this is just dragging. And you might introduce a few little bits up here. Just use the edge of the knife and twist the knife to get different thicknesses of line. So you twist it. Can you see the way I'm doing it? Twist it. And then these ones you don't really want to touch. Just let them lie. they are, and then you might just put a little bit of fiddly lines here and there. Right, that's pretty cool. Now, I'll do some white in a minute, but I'll leave that as it is. I'm quite happy with that. It's just a bit. Yeah, this you start to get a bit of texture in there too. No, so I want a bit of beach colour. Now I think I'm going to go for an orange, like a sanguine sort of orange, lovely colour. So we'll start with orange. Put a bit of white in it. Let's see how. I don't want it to be dark orange. I want it to be fairly light. So I'm getting a bit of fresh white. And make sure there's no bits in it, because if there are, I'm going to have to dig them out, which will spoil the picture. A bit more, bit more. Yeah. See, I've still got the lilac on the palette, right? So I can see this sanguine, whether it's working or not. You know, I've got it next to it, and I'm thinking, oh, does that look nice next to that? And I might just put a bit of lemon yellow in there to warm it up. Oh yeah, that's working. So a little bit more lemon yellow, a bit more white. Yeah, so this is the colour I'm going to put. Now what I'm going to try and do, this is the technique of, is dragging really. So I sort of don't want it to be solid. I want that orange, that sienna underneath to show through. So I'm mixing this paint up, and you're just picking up, putting the palette knife flat down on the paint, just so I just get a bit. And the idea is just to, I just want to drag. See, like, and get that sort of broken. You see, don't worry about that because I can touch that up in a minute. So I'm just trying to get this broken effect, and I'll just keep adding to it until you just drag. Don't know if you pick up. That's quite nice. See? And that's lined up there. You can drag your sort of lilac, and if you want, you can do the same with the lilac, where it. See, you have to clean your palette knife each time though. Drag your lilac. That's not too bad actually. See? So I've got a bit of that sanguine. Now there could be some areas where you want it really intense, so just put some colour on there. And you want this colour to be quite intense, so there's little patches, and there's a bit up there which is underneath the land, and there might be a bit there. Yeah, so these are the areas that you want to be quite intense colours, so then we drag those. Doesn't matter if it, I'm cleaning the palette knife each time. Yeah, that's quite cool. See the way that merges, it's lovely, isn't it? So I'll make it a bit more lilac, because I just want to clean up back where I was. It's slightly darker mauve. I might put a bit of blue in this actually to get it to go lilac-y blue. Oh yeah. It's quite, this is the best bit when you're mixing colours and you think, oh yeah, it's a nice colour. This has got a lot of blue in it, so when I put this on the edges, look at that. Oh yeah. See? And you just wiggle your palette knife, change the angle to get different figures aligned. And you just put in some. You can see that. Yeah. A few little waves, breakers, just drag them in. This is the enjoyable bit. There you go. Leave leave those nice and thick. That's really nice and moody. Right, there's a bit of land up here and it cuts in through there. I'm looking around at my other paintings, thinking, what can I do? Now you want to start off with a fairly dark stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a kind of a muddy, dark mauve. So that'll be violet, permanent mauve, sorry. And I'll put a bit of sienna in it. And I'll see what that looks like. If you put a bit of lemon yellow in it, that makes it go a little bit muddy, which is nice, and a bit of, just try everything, get it in there. Bit of cerulean blue as well. Sort of all the time I'm thinking, is that too dark? It probably is. You don't want it to get, because it's slightly in the distance, so I'm just going to soften it down with a bit of white. And you just find a colour that you think, wow, this is like a grey sort of grey mauve. Yeah, that's lovely. That's lovely. I'm just mixing it in properly so that the colour. And sometimes what I like to do, if I want a soft edge, I would use my finger to put the paint on. So I'll just show you. So start just below where you want it to be, and then you can work up to it. So just use the edge of your finger just to work in the colour, and just make these little sweeping marks to the land. So you'll notice you get, it's a bit like a Renoir paint. If you look at his paintings, they're really soft around the edges. So it's just play around with the paint a little bit until it blends a little bit, and you get this lovely soft. And at first it doesn't look right, but what you'll find, and you come down to where the land is, just lift your finger so you're just touching it. So that's given me like a soft edge, which you wouldn't be able to get with a palette knife so easy. You haven't got quite this control. So once you're happy with that, I've got a little bit of a soft edge going on now. I'll pick my palette knife back up, and then I can start blocking in some colour. Now the horizon of that bit of land is about sort of there, and I'm flattening the knife nearly flat now. So you drag the edge of it and lay it flat, and then push against the canvas, and it should pick up. So you get that lovely. It picks the paint up. So just block it in. Don't go right to the edge, because otherwise you lose your furry edge that I was trying to get. I mean, if you want some of it to be hard, you can put in little rocks and things like that and start whacking in a little bit of detail. I'm just using the very tip of the palette knife now and then to do this. There's a little railing going up there. So use the edge of the palette knife to draw it. Just relax, let it drag. And you get some little bars coming down. And then there's a little building up here. So just use the edge of the palette knife, do a bit of drawing. And if you start to get a bit pale, and it's got there's a rock, so you can work in the orange underneath. It's quite nice. And there's a couple of aerials and a flag. There you go. So notice this is a dull, murky colour. Yeah. Just don't play around with the paint. Just put it on. If there's any bits that are sticking on that you're not happy with, it looks a bit funny. And you've got another sort of a rock. So I'm just using the edge of the palette knife to use the bottom edge to draw the line, and then you can just block in a couple of, and then that sort of comes out. There you go. And then you can come up from the bottom if you want to. Yeah, so just touching this a bit where I've lifted the paint. So imagine you're drawing rocks, you can make little marks in it to sort of give the impression of rocks that in the lovely paint. That's good, that's pretty good. Right, so that's that bit of headland, then there's a couple of bits where it's not quite straight. You want it to be perfectly straight. And then under, so down the bottom here, there's more rocks. So I'm going to use the same colour. And because it's in the foreground, I think I'm going to add a bit of yellow to it and get it to go a little bit lighter. A bit of blue. Yeah, you'll see a difference. Or could. It sort of looks more blue actually, more slimy. Yeah, let's do that. Right, so it's still muddy and it's like a grey sort of turquoise colour. It looks really muddy at the minute, and I'll just lay that on there. Again, don't, now because it's in the foreground it wants to be a bit sharper, so just use the edge of your palette knife. Don't get too fussy about drawing, and leave some of those raw sienna bits. You know, you can scratch through. That's it. Leave some of the raw sienna showing through, and there's a rock. There's a rock there. Notice how quickly I'm doing it, because I don't want it to be detailed. And then in the foreground, there's some rocks that have sort of got a bit of orange. So what I'm going to do is let that raw sienna show through. I'm just touching the canvas as lightly as possible to get that raw sienna to still show through. You know, and you sort of drag around, make a few marks here and there. Yeah. So just take that up there. Now, another thing you can do is, now I've used that colour and it's different to that one. What we'll do is we'll stick a bit of this colour in here because it ties the picture together. It links that to that. Visually, you know, your eye will find that, and just put in a couple of bits here and there just to sort of link the two together, and it looks like it's part of the same painting. So you might just see what I mean, there's a bit of that colour, and if you're clever you can bring the colour up there into this down here. So you're linking the two bits together, the two bits of land, which is a good idea. And just try and make that a similar colour. Don't have to be exactly the same bit. So that's pretty similar. So I can see bits. I'm just using the edge of the knife. Just draw. Just create. See that? Just draw. What I'm doing is I'm sketching out these rocks just to see where they are, and then in a minute I'll start adding some lovely colours, you know, like beautiful. So just there's some rocks here, put in a bit of shadow. The thing is, don't overdo it, because if you overdo it, it just the painting looks overworked. So there you go, a couple of dark bits in here. That's looking pretty cool. There's a bit of grass going across this, so I'll put that in. There's a few. You can scratch through and then you'll notice that the raw, that's why I put the colour on the bottom, see? So if you scratch through, you'll see the colour underneath will come through, and there's a few steps there. That looks really nice. And there's, see, that's really nice the way that, if you scratch away from underneath, you can let that sienna shape come through. That's really nice, isn't it? See? There you go. So you're creating highlights as well. That's really nice. Right, now, so there are muddy bits. So what we've got to do now is start adding some nice bright colours now. So I'm looking at the picture. The first thing I can see is there's some highlights down here of the rocks. So I'm trying to think to myself what colour's going to look nice on that. And I think at the moment it probably wants to be like an orange. So I'm going to mix up a kind of a mid-orange. And I'm looking at the picture thinking, does that colour work? So I might just put a bit of that in it. A bit of pink. This orange and rose madder I'm using at the minute to get this sort of kind of, it might be a bit to find something I like. Right, what I've done, I've got orange and rose madder, and then I've just added a bit of cerulean blue, and it's gone this lovely, oh, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a kind of a pinky grey, but that's quite a nice colour. So what I'm going to do is I'll just put a bit on there and see what it looks like. Yeah, that looks cool. So just dab the pick, drag and play. You're playing rocks, little rocks in, you know. And you can. So this is a slightly. Just imagine you're drawing in the rocks and playing around. I can see. And again, this is still, the colour is still quite muted, and I've got a stronger colour there. So I can just add in, get some kinks up there, just play around with it. And this is where you start thinking, okay, well, I need to start drawing in a bit of detail. So, okay. And you might go along the edges, and there might be some highlights up there. There's the little wall up there, I've got a little turret there. I'm going to leave the highlights till last. Now, so I'll come, same colour, we'll use a bit more orange in it this time. So just pick out, don't overdo it, so just pick out little bits that, just drag it over, so clean your knife. You've got little bits of rock here and there. And then you just sort of, if you drag it over the top, just lightly, you catch the tops of the paint. And underneath, you know, you just catch the, and if you push hard, you obviously block it out, but I'm trying to, so just draw in bits. And you can just drag really lightly over the surface, like that. See, that's lovely. Just drag really carefully. There. And you get this lovely furry. There you go. That's not too bad, is it? Now I've got some stronger orange here, so I'm just going to put in a couple of marks. Don't let your palette knife get. Don't let it get dirty. So you just put in. There you go. So you've got some real muted colours in now. I think I'm going to introduce a bit of lilac in there, because we've got lilac over here, and it'd be nice to put some of that in the rocks. So I'm just mixing up a bit of lilac, and this is now warm colours. You know, you're starting to get some. You'll see what I mean. It's sort of almost blue. This is. I might put just a little bit more. So that's lovely. So just touch, you know, just the lightest touches here and there. Don't want it to go mad, because that'll end up. See? Use the edge of your palette knife, and there's all these lovely little rocks coming down here. Look. Just, you don't have to draw them exactly. Just make some lovely marks with the tip of the palette knife. So, and you might, you know, just put it on the base. And you start to see there's a little step there, and there's some colour coming down here. And there's a bit of, you know, make some. And you know, there's a bit of rock going through it. Right, just need a little bit more of the paint. And then the same here, down here, there's, so you can be much, because it's in the foreground, you want much, see that lovely bold, don't let your palette knife get dirty. And then this one's actually got quite a lot of blue on it, so just really drag over the top. There's bits here and there, just if you've got any scraps. Let's just drag it through the orange. That's enough. Right. Now, painting scene. So what I'm going to do is I want to get some pink in there. I'm going to put a little bit of orange in it just to soften it down a bit, and a bit of mauve. Yeah, so what I've done is a bit of rose madder, a little bit of cadmium orange, and then I've put a little bit of cerulean blue in there just to kill it, and you'll see how this warms. It's starting to get these warmths, and again, lightest touches, just put it in here and there, anywhere where you think it's going to cause a bit of drama. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for a bit of drama in our pictures. So I'm using the edge of the palette knife. It's quite nice. On that, you know, like some bits of rock down here that, and you might just take that off into the sea. Because I like this colour so much, I'm going to add a few touches here and there, because it links the picture together. Yeah. And then again, be bold because you're in the foreground. You can really afford to just be loose, you know, get in there. Looking at this. Right, so that's starting to look nice. Right, now I want some highlights now. So I want to put some stronger colours in, just so. So there's a bit, I'm going to mix, I've got a very light blue, pale blue. So I've got white, titanium white, and I've put a tiny bit of cerulean blue in it. And I've got this really pale blue. And it's brilliant for you know, just picking out, to make sure your palette knife's really clean, and you just want the paint on the edge. See? Lovely. Just draw some little lines in with, we're not at highlights yet, we're still sort of, and you might just tinkle around, drawing in little rocks and highlights, you know, where they use the edge of the pen. So you've got little rocks down here. Sort of, if you feel like the rocks are disappearing a bit into the picture, just bring them out, you know. The light's catching. If you feel, it's always nice to get that kind of. Put some down and just scratch it in. That's quite nice. You know, and underneath the rocks there'll be waves breaking, and then you can have bits where the waters, don't be frightened of it catching in. Bearing in mind we haven't used the white yet, so I'm just putting in a few breakers, and then you might just put a bit up there for interest. That's lovely. Yeah. So there's a few highlights on the rocks in the foreground here. Just use your palette knife to draw edges in. And, you know, just use them. You can sort of outline. Use the edge of the palette knife to sort of draw little cranky outlines like that. And it just gives a picture. That's lovely. Just drag it. You know, that's quite nice actually. Not going to go too mad with these. Yep. Now, so that's white with pale blue. So what I'm going to do now is white with yellow, or a bit of, try cadmium orange. I mean, that's the minutest bit, so you're almost white, but you've just got this lovely warmth in it. So a bit of cadmium orange, and a bit of lemon yellow, and you've got this sort of kind of warm, creamy. So first thing I'm going to do is just pick up a few. Can you see that? A few highlights. This is really nice actually. I'm just dragging it very lightly across the top of the paint that's underneath. It's just sitting on the top. You keep wiping your palette knife clean, and then there's be a few waves around the rocks. Yeah, that's lovely. And that building up there, it's got. So the building up there, it's got. Just, indicate. Right, and then you might just put in where the light is catching the rocks. You've got to keep see, I don't want to overdo this because and you've got little rocks coming down where it's catching the light. See? Now we're in the foreground again, so again be quiet. Let that paint do what it wants to do. You get these lovely little things going on. And you might do some big sweeps of highlight. If you just drag the palette knife, just catch the tops of the. See, that's lovely. Right. So we're getting towards the end now. So I've got two things to do. I want to put some really, really vibrant highlighty colours in there now, like so, kind of a bit of pink, a bit of really vibrant orange, a bit of yellow, and I've also I need to have a bit of green grass, but I don't like green. So what I tend to do is I make what I call aqua, like a nice aqua colour. So I'll make two versions of it, a dark version and a light version. So we'll put the dark version down first. So I've put in cerulean blue and then just put in a tad of sienna in it just to kill it. And then you have a brighter version to put over the top, which is almost green, but it's not. So here we go. So I've got a kind of a mid version. So you just drag. Can you see? You can just, if you just let the palette knife catch, just let it. Oh, God, that's lovely. And obviously you're going to have some little spades of grass breaking out of it, and just let the palette knife catch in areas, like down there. Just let it catch. That's gorgeous. So again, we're still working with the sort of slightly dark, mix up a slightly darker version. I'm just putting some, yeah, that's lovely. And again, this is looking a bit moody up here, so just drag, be a bit careful now, just drag, let it catch. Rougher it is now. Right, now I'm going to go for this much more vibrant. And you just let it. Can you see where I'm just catching? I'm using more of the edge of the palette knife to give me. So I'm doing the same thing over the top of what I'd already done. Just let it catch the tops of the. You might want to scratch in a few. It's got a bit muddy. I need a bit of cerulean. So I'm just getting some fresh. Right, so get that cerulean blue. A little bit of lemon yellow. So it's nice and clean again. It's got a lovely. Yeah, that's really cool. So just let it. That's not yellow enough actually. Oh. Right, so and what I can do is put a bit of ultramarine in there as well. So if you mix up a lovely bit, sort of mid-blue, what you'll find is, over that turquoise, you've got to be really careful with this because it'll look like a bit of shadow. Put a little bit of rose madder in there. Got a lovely, a sort of a purpley blue. You'll see. And just catch very, 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 very lightly, like little shadows. Lovely. Can you see that? So you might just use it. It's lovely. And then we'll do the same up here. So just catch. I need to put some. And there's a few bits down the bottom. Twist, twist. Yeah. Right. So I just want to. Where's that lemon? You know, just need some highlights on that land in the distance. So I've mixed up a real. This is quite a vibrant. It's like, I'm just gonna catch. That'll do. And then you just tick in a few bits where it's catching. You can go really light. A bit more lemon yellow. I want it to be quite lemony. Oh yeah. So I've put quite a lot of yellow in this. It's got quite a lot of lemon yellow. So it's going to be quite vibrant. So you can just catch in. Don't overdo it. But you know me. Yeah. You know, I'm going to get a bit of pure lemon yellow and white. And just put in a couple of touches here and there. Right, I just want a few touches of orange and pink just to give the impression of flowers dotted around, so, and a bit of lilac. So I'm having on the palette, I've got a little bit of lilac, and I'm just gonna just use this to indicate which I would. Kind of little flowers. Just points of interest, really. You know, you might just get what it is. It's just giving you a lovely bit of colour if you feel there's a bit of a flat bit. And then, you know, I've got this quite strong pink. So just use it to catch certain areas where you think the picture might need. And if you get it right, you've got like a blue there, and then you can put these colours against each other, and they sort of, they dance on the canvas. And now, it's just cool. Just imagine these are little flowers. That's cool. Right, now make sure your palette is absolutely clean, because I've got yellow and orange. So I'm trying, first of all I've got a little bit of dark orange. So there's a little mark there. You know, you sort of don't go too mad, just these are little bits of like fire in the canvas. Ah! That's lovely. Still need some white up there. You know, can only do a few marks because it gets dirty really quick, especially with orange. So just be brave with it. You know, let it do its job. Lovely, that's what I was after. You get these lovely, just using the edge of the palette knife. I think, yeah, a couple of little sketchy bits down here. Right, all we need now is like to finish off is some what I call outlining. And what I tend to do, I mean, I usually use Prussian blue for outlining, but what I'm going to do is I've got to start with Prussian blue, put a bit of ultramarine in it. I just want it to get a bit lighter than sort of Prussian blue. So you just got to get it to go slightly muddy. That's perfect. This is like so you've got Prussian blue, and I've put a bit of rose madder in it and a bit of lemon yellow. And what it does is making it go a little bit muddy. Get some orange as well. Yeah, that's the colour I want. So this has been sort of kind of finishing off. I don't know if you can see that colour. Quite nice. I'm going to put a bit more orange in that just to make it go more brown. But you just still want it to look like blue. But that's gone off. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. Can you see that colour? So when I put this on now, I'm doing like little outlines now. So I'm using the very edge of the palette knife. And you can do a few marks. And you can just tick in little... And what this does, it throws all the other colours out. Makes them stand out because suddenly there's this new depth to the... There you go. See, it's lovely, isn't it? And just use the very tip of the palette knife, get a bit of paint on there, keep it clean, and just go around the edges and just sort of try different things, you know, like try the different angles of the palette knife, and if there's some big bits you can just drag it and catch the tops of the paint, and then try sketching, a bit of scratching. There's some steps. Some little steps here. That's lovely. And the quicker you work, it will just look like you've been sort of quite bold. So don't be frightened. Just be confident with your marks. So you don't really need a lot. You might want to just a bit of scratching here and there. If you feel you've lost a bit of the image, just tack it back in. Now coming down to the, you've got to be a bit bolder in the foreground because it's much closer. So you can use this to don't worry about what you put on. If you cover it up, you can always put a bit of colour back in. But so we're just sketching it. So you might just let that catch. Let it catch. To emphasise the rock. There you go. Don't do too much, and then you might just scrape a few wiggles in. Really, and I think that basically that's the painting done. There you go. Thank you very much. That's my palette knife. All with that one.